Hi guys, it's Riley. Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, let me introduce myself. My name is Riley. I'm 27 years old and I live in Sarasota, Florida. I make videos about myself, my life living in Florida, and also about my career, which is accounting. Also, quick note, if I'm looking down throughout this video, it's just because I jotted down some quick notes, so I just want to make sure that I'm not forgetting to say anything. I feel like before we jump into the Q&A about working in accounting, I want to provide some background about myself, and specifically about my career path working in accounting and how I ended up where I'm at now. So I often get asked why I majored in accounting, etc. And I feel very lucky because I actually had accounting classes in high school. My high school offered accounting as an elective class starting your sophomore year of high school, and my high school offered accounting 1, 2, and 3. And I was able to take accounting from my sophomore year all the way through my senior year. So by the time I graduated high school, I already had a really good introduction to accounting, what it is, what it was, before even getting to college. Again, I know I'm very lucky because I know a lot of high schools don't offer accounting classes, but once I went to college, obviously I majored in accounting. I actually double majored in accounting and finance. And fun fact, I was one class away from having an anthropology minor. I know, super random. But I graduated from college in 2019 and I started my first job working in accounting as an auditor. After about a year, I left public accounting and I worked for a very large international retail company. And I worked for that company as a staff accountant in their fixed assets department. I eventually ended up leaving that company after about 2 years there because I ended up moving from Pennsylvania to Florida. When I first moved to Florida, I got an accounts payable job. I was only there for a very short amount of time, about 6 months, but it served as a really good transition from my move from Pennsylvania to Florida and until I really settled in Florida. After those 6 months, I quickly switched back to a retail company again working in their corporate office in their fixed assets department. I worked for a Florida-based retail company, much smaller than the prior company I was working at in retail, but still quite large. Their stores are in 26 states, I believe, so still a decent sized company, but still as a staff accountant working in fixed assets. I left that job about a year ago, and that brings me to today. Now I am an assistant controller for a restoration company here in Florida, and I actually just celebrated my 1 year at my current company. So in total, I have 5.5 years of work experience. So now that you know a little bit more about me and my journey, I think we should jump into some questions. I chose questions based on what I get asked most frequently when I post my videos and talk about my career. Okay, so let's jump into it. Question number 1, do you have to get your CPA license to work in accounting? No, you do not have to get your CPA to be an accountant. I personally do not have my CPA license, but let me elaborate a little more on this. It really depends on what you want to do. If you want to work in public accounting, you can start working at a public accounting firm before you actually get your CPA. You will eventually need your CPA in order to get promoted, sometimes to the senior level. From my personal experience, some seniors still did not have their CPA, but in order to be promoted to a manager level, you needed to get your CPA. It was a requirement in order to move up from the senior to a manager. But aside from public accounting, there are so many other options. Think about it. Every single company needs accountants. Every single one needs an accountant or accountants. If you don't want to work in public accounting or you're thinking about leaving public, I highly recommend choosing an industry that interests you. So for example, when I left public accounting, I knew retail really interested me, so that's why I went the retail route to work for a corporate company based in the retail industry. I will say this, if you are a new grad or you're working towards your degree and you're unsure if you want to work in public accounting or not, but you're seriously considering it as an option, I would definitely recommend starting in public accounting. Again, just my personal opinion, but I do believe it's much easier to start in public accounting and find a job somewhere else afterwards versus starting out and choosing a non-public role and trying to switch to public accounting later on. Not saying that it's impossible, so if that is you and you're trying to switch to public accounting right now, I'm not trying to tell you that you can't do it. You certainly can, so don't get discouraged. But starting out in public accounting, in my opinion, is much easier. And here's why I say that. Once you graduate, let's say you have all of your coursework and you have the required number of credit hours to sit for your CPA exam based on whatever state you live in, a lot of companies will actually pay for your exam. My first job paid for all of my study materials, and they also paid for me to sit to take each part of the exam. So there are 4 separate parts. My company paid for me to sit for each part of that exam 1 time. Number 2, when it's not busy season, a lot of times public companies allow you to study for your exam while you are at work. So for me, when it wasn't busy season, I often had free time during the week where I was allowed to study. I could study at work and get paid to do it. For example, we may have spent the week at a client site and finished up the audit early. Let's say we finished it on Thursday. So on Friday, I was able to sit in the office and get paid to study for my CPA. Reason number 3, especially if you're a recent grad and you're already in the study mode, you're already used to studying and you're used to having good study habits. I think it's easier to keep that momentum going and continue to study while you're still in that student mode and continue to study for your CPA exam. And lastly, it makes you more hireable. Let's say, worst case scenario, you choose to work in public accounting and you feel like you made a terrible mistake, you hate public accounting. Hi, hello, that was me. I only lasted 1 year. But let's say you absolutely hate it and you want to quit. You don't want to sit for the CPA exam, you're done, you don't have your license yet. If companies see that you worked for a public accounting firm and you have any type of public accounting experience, even if you didn't pass your exam and you don't have your license, just any type of public accounting experience, it definitely makes you more hireable to future employers. So just my advice for people who really don't know, maybe you don't know the difference between working in public accounting and working in the private sector, or maybe you do understand the difference and you're not sure which you would like better, you're really just split 50-50. My personal recommendation would be to start in public accounting, go for it, go for the public accounting route, and if it doesn't work out, you still have that awesome work experience and it is a great boost to your resume. Okay, question number 2, how do I get a job working in accounting? Guys, this is a tough one, and I actually get this question a lot. So it's been 5.5 years since I graduated college, and it's been a little over a year since I've been job searching. I do, however, get the sense that recently it has been very difficult for a lot of people to find a job. And please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Like I said, it has been over a year since I've been actively looking for a job, but I almost feel like job sites have gotten really flooded with ads or not real jobs, or people whose jobs it is just to promote themselves on job sites like LinkedIn, for example. And that makes it really hard to find good job listings. I also know a lot of people who consistently apply to jobs. They're perfectly qualified for the positions that they're applying to, and they just never hear anything back. Again, makes it really difficult. I feel like when I was job searching a year ago, that I was just simply not hearing back from companies a lot more often compared to when I started my job search when I first graduated from college about 5.5 years ago. And truthfully, I'm not sure why that is, but it is true. It's very real. A lot of companies just don't respond. They don't provide you any type of feedback after applying, which can be very frustrating. So if that's you, trust me, I've been there. And I know all of this sounds really negative, but I hope you know that if you are struggling to find a job, you are not alone. I understand that feeling 110% because number 1, I've been there, and number 2, like I said, I get a lot of comments asking, how do you find a job? But I do also truly believe with all of my heart that if you're meant to get a job and it's meant to be, you will get it. Meaning I've applied to jobs, I've had interviews, I've thought I nailed it, and I've gotten rejected. And looking back, I know now it is such a blessing because I would have been miserable at those jobs. And I didn't see it while I was applying to them, not at all. I was extremely frustrated. I was like, oh, I know I deserved that. They seemed like they really liked me. All I got was positive feedback, and I just never heard back, or I got rejected. But looking back on it, I did start to realize the reasons why I didn't get it. and have just seen it as a blessing because I know that I would not have enjoyed that job and that it would not have been a good fit for me. So my advice is keep going. Just keep doing the little everyday things. Number one, keep applying. So all those job sites, use anything you can. There are tons of different job sites. Use them all. Get creative with your searches. Instead of just typing in the same search like accounting jobs, be a little bit more specific. Or maybe if you have been really specific, be a little bit more broad. Do some more research into what kinds of different jobs people with an accounting degree can get. So keep applying to any job that you think you qualify for. And it does not have to be a perfect match. Just because you don't meet every single qualification, still apply for the job because you never know. Also, keep your resume updated. So do those little things. If you have references that you can add, keep tweaking your resume, make little changes, add some more details, do anything and everything you can to make sure you have the most current form of your resume at all times. And most importantly, just do not give up. Do not give up because your job is out there. It's waiting for you. I promise. I promise you will find your dream job as long as you keep going at it and you keep applying. That is my best piece of advice for finding a job. It's just using every possible resource. Check job postings daily. Keep applying. Apply to anything. Even if you think you may not fully qualify for it, just keep going. Do not give up because you can do it. Your dream job is out there, like I said. You've got this. Okay, so question number 3. Do you enjoy working in accounting? Do you like being an accountant? Do I actually like my job? What is it like working in accounting? This is probably my most frequently asked question on my videos. Somewhere along those lines. I feel like this is a really good time to talk about the pros and cons of working in accounting because just like every job, there are good aspects and then there are not so good aspects. So number 1 is work-life balance. This can be a pro and a con. Actually, pretty much everything that I had on my list, I feel like can fall under to both a pro and a con. Hear me out. Does accounting have good work-life balance? In my experience, I would say yes. Accounting does provide a good work-life balance, but your work-life balance is very dependent on different times during the week, during the month, during the year. It's also different based on what company you work for, what industry you're working in. Do you work in public accounting? Do you work in the private sector? Your busy times of year and your slower times of the year will vary greatly depending on all these different factors. So let's start with public accounting. Typically, again, every company is different, but public accounting is typically very busy during the first quarter of the year. If you're working in audit or tax, it is very common to be very busy. Busy meaning 60, 70, 80 hour plus work weeks during the week, including weekends, anytime from January to April. Again, there are some varying factors like whether you work in audit, whether you work in tax, when the company's fiscal year is or year end is, tax filing deadlines, etc., etc. But when you think of Big Four public accounting, your stereotypical accountants working in public accounting, most people associate that busy season being somewhere in between January and April. So of course, this busy season is definitely a con. However, when it's not the busy season, the work environment is much more laid back. For example, when I worked in public accounting as an auditor, I know I mentioned before, but in the summer and in the fall, I was able to study for my CPA exam pretty much every single Friday. Again, during the slower times, I pretty much only worked from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., plus taking an hour lunch break. So during those slower months, much fewer work hours, much more laid back environment, on top of having study time and just an overall more relaxed work culture. Outside of public accounting, I still believe that accounting does offer good work-life balance. But outside of public, it does greatly depend on the time of the week, the month, or the year for when your busy season or your peak busy times are versus your slower times. Typically, month end, quarter end, and year end are all very busy times. Also, keep in mind that not every company's fiscal year follows the calendar year from January to December. For example, when I worked for a large retail company, that company's fiscal year was actually from February to January. So my really busy time of the year, luckily, Wasn't during December because it wasn't during the holidays, so that's why I say it's lucky. But my January was very busy because that was our year end. I learned working there that a lot of retail companies do follow a February to January fiscal year. I never found out why, but I just learned that a lot of retail companies are like that. Also, the department you work in may affect your peak busy times. So when I was working for these retail companies, working in the fixed assets department, fixed assets actually had to be completed before all of the other departments could close out the month. So for example, we had the fixed assets department, which I was in, we have accounts payable, there were sales, there was the general ledger group. There were all these different groups. Those departments could not close out the month until after fixed assets was done. So for all of the other departments, their really busy time was at the end of every month. It was usually the last week. So do the math, 25% of the time you're really busy. 1 week out of the month, 75% is a little bit more laid back. So still pretty good work-life balance. But again, timing is just different for everyone. My really busy time was during week 3 of every month so that we could get fixed assets done. All the other departments just so happened to be in week 4 to close out the month. But very similar to public accounting, those times where you're not super busy, the other 3 weeks of the month, it was much slower paced and a lot more flexible. And one kind of con about accounting is during those really busy times, like busy season or month end as an example, typically you cannot take off work those days. I won't say you can't take off, but if you put in a request to take off, in my experience, it is frowned upon. So just keep that in mind. There may be times during the year that you cannot take off, or most likely it will be frowned upon. Just something to keep in mind. And those peak times where you can't take off, it does balance out with the slower times. Another pro con of accounting is it is challenging, but can also be repetitive. This has just been my experience so far, but accounting tends to have both challenging and repetitive processes. For example, there may be certain journal entries that you have to do every single month, or other job responsibilities like creating invoices or posting payments. These are repetitive processes that tend to stay the same every month. However, there are also always challenges. Things that vary every month, or regular processes that always just seem to have questions arise. There's always just something that's a little bit different from one month to the next that causes problems. These things aren't so black and white and aren't so straightforward, and they do provide good challenges. So in my opinion, I've always had a good balance of those things that are repetitive, that I know I can whip through every month, most of the time not have any issues, and then certain processes that I know are probably going to have me asking some questions every single month. And I know everybody is different. Some people like the consistency. They like those repetitive processes because they know what's coming. And again, just like that consistency, they know what to expect. And some people like challenges, and some people like problem solving and doing that critical thinking. And I personally really like that accounting offers both. The final pro-con point that I want to make about what it's like working in accounting is salary. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about salaries, because every job is very different and every company is very different. But the point that I do want to make, please know, salaries in accounting can vary a lot. They can vary greatly. For example, one job or one company may pay a staff accountant $40,000 a year, while another company may pay a staff accountant $65,000 a year. So my opinion is this career is what you make it. If your goal is to have a really good, high-paying job and make a good living, yes, you can 100% do that with accounting. Just be aware that there are also a lot of lower paying, or not even necessarily lower paying, some lower, yes, but also a lot of average paying jobs. And you might not start off right away making 6 figures just like that. You may not even start out making $60,000 or $70,000 a year. My advice is to get a good 1 to 2 years of experience under your belt and then start looking for those higher paying jobs. Of course, if you can find a higher paying job right away, do it, go for it. That's amazing. Congratulations if you're there, that is awesome. And definitely no harm in applying for those jobs. Go for the money. I'm here with you. I get it. More power to you. That's awesome. But know that if you're struggling finding higher paying jobs, or maybe you're currently at a job right now where you feel like you're definitely being underpaid, my advice would be to just get 1 to 2 years of experience under your belt. After that, know your worth. Know how much you are worth. Know that there are a lot of jobs that will pay you much higher. If you feel like you're being underpaid, you probably are. Please know that. So while making good money, that's a different definition for everyone, but for the majority of people, I believe that if you're looking to make good money, you can certainly do that in accounting. It's not guaranteed, but is 100% possible. And it's possible to get there relatively quickly. Okay, you guys. The way that I want to end this video is by simply just offering my advice. I'm assuming you've clicked on this video and you've made it this far because you have some sort of interest level in accounting, whether you're a student or a recent grad, or you currently have a career in accounting, or maybe you're looking to make a career change. My personal opinion disclosure is that accounting can be a really great career if that's what you're looking for. The job outlook is great. Every company needs accountants, so it's great job security. And no, you are not in danger of being replaced by AI. I've gotten that question before. No, you would be surprised how outdated most of the accounting software is that we have. You would be very surprised. So I would say definitely not in danger of being replaced by computers or robots or AI or anything like that, at least not in the near future. I'm sure somebody out there is working on it, but not in the near future. So no worries. And I know everyone has a different opinion of what making a lot of money looks like and what that is and what that means, but accounting can be a very lucrative career. You can be anything starting from a staff accountant or a bookkeeper all the way up to a CEO or CFO or a VP of finance, or open your own business someday. You can be an entrepreneur and be your own boss. These are all realistic job possibilities for your future. There are so many different options. There's so many different career paths. So do not limit yourself and do your research. I really hope this video helped answer some of your questions and gave you an overview of what it's like working as an accountant. And maybe it even helped give you a little boost of confidence and a little bit of optimism. So please, please, please continue to leave me comments, ask me questions. I like doing these Q&A videos, so I will happily answer all of your questions that you leave down below in the comments. And I will also try and do more Q&A videos. So keep those comments coming. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more. And thank you all so much for watching. As always, I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you in the next one.